episode 3 of Beyond the Gloves. And with Siddharth Singh, founder of Cross Train Fight Club, a 10-time national Jiu Jitsu champion, and the person who's going to lead the Indian contingent to the Asian Games in China. Welcome to the show, Siddharth.
Hi, Vaibhav. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Just tired from all the
Uh-huh.
training, but exhausted, but all good.
No days for off for you, I'm assuming.
No days off today by default. I'm going late for training because we're doing this, but otherwise I would already be training today.
Oh man, I'm really sorry to eat up on your training time. I know you
Not
train
at
very
all, man.
hard. Yeah.
No, I needed some rest time today, so I'm
Great.
glad this is happening.
Perfect. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on this show. And I just need to say, I don't know if you've been following what the Vaibhav Shetty experience, but I typically have two parts of this. One is Beyond the Gloves, which was meant for the athletes, and one was the Inside Scoop, meant for the people behind the scene, the coaches, the promoters, and the global body presidents, etc. And for you, right, I kept figuring out where do I put you, but given the events of the last couple of weeks, right? You won the national title for the record 10th time. That is insane. 10 years ago, most people in India did not even know what Jiu Jitsu was, I believe. And you were there in the fray competing. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's changed a lot.
Mhm.
You know, 10 years ago, man, actually 11 years ago, we started CrossFit Fight Club. I came back from the UK to start this MMA thing, which nobody at the time knew what MMA was in
Right.
2012. Um, yeah, I would talk about MMA so passionately, and they would just make karate gestures and say, "Oh, you're doing kung fu karate," and yeah, and fast forward 5 years, I think Ronda Rousey is the one who kind of started to bring us mainstream. People
Mhm.
try to then say, "Oh, it's what Brock Lesnar does or Ronda Rousey does." So started to get a bit more popular in like 16, 17.
Mhm.
And then obviously McGregor came and he took it fourth. So yeah, man, I've been competing since I think 2014 was my first tournament,
Mhm.
and it really came out from the necessity of I wanted our team to compete,
Right.
and people just didn't believe in themselves, like because 2012, 13 again, there were a lot of these fake martial art dojos that were around,
Right.
and how would and if there is a genuine school which comes up amongst a group of frauds, then how do you really stand out from the frauds? Well, you go compete. You put it on the
Right.
mat, and nobody. People can, if you don't compete, people can say, "Oh, he's a fraud, he's a fake." But if you're going out there, if you're competing, if you're winning, they can't say that anymore. So that was the reason why I went out and started competing in the
Mhm.
nationals. That's how it first started off. That nakli hai, CrossFit is fake. I started winning stuff. Then they started to say, oh, only wins in India. They can't win abroad. So I started going
Right.
abroad and winning. So that's how it's kind of started off. It was really to just, let people know, let Indians know that, we have genuine fighters and authentic athletes, homegrown. That's how it
Mhm.
started off, man.
Perfect. So yeah, I think it's very interesting you brought this up because this is something even I faced when I was starting MMA, and I started quite late in my life. I believe you did as well. You had a corporate career before this. Were you an investment banker back in London?
No, man. So I used to work for a brand management company.
Got it.
It's
Okay.
a company called Pentland Brands. So
Uh
they
huh.
owned around 25 different brands in sports, lifestyle, and fashion.
Right.
So they owned, like I think I'm wearing right now, I'm wearing a Lacoste shirt. So
Uh
Lacoste
huh.
was owned by them. They owned Ted Baker. They owned a bunch of brands, Kangaroos, Kickers, Speedo, the swimming brand. So they owned a
Right.
bunch of them, and they hired me straight after my master's degree in economics. I was doing my master's in economics from Scotland, and they
Hmm.
hired me straight from college on their graduate program, and I worked for them for 5 years. I was heading their international business development for a Italian brand,
Hmm.
LS, in Europe, Middle East, Africa. So I was working with them for 5 years, and yeah, I started off with boxing pretty early. Actually, I started boxing when I was 12 years old.
Oh
It
wow.
was a
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I went to boarding school in Dehradun called the Doon School,
Uh huh.
and there boxing was a sport, and I kind of got thrown into it because my brother was a boxer, and none of my batchmates wanted to box. Who wants to
Hmm.
box at the age of 12, man?
Right.
So, so yeah, I was thrust into it. Started boxing at 12. Then I did my economics honors from Delhi. Couldn't find boxing anywhere back when I was in
Hmm.
college. And then again in the UK, I tried to find boxing. Couldn't find it. But one of my friends said, "Oh, there's this Thai boxing place. Check it out." I thought,
Hmm.
"Oh, it's going to be like boxing Thai. What's the difference?" And I went in. I found out very quickly it's very different. When you start getting kicked in the face, it's, it's
Right.
very different.
Oh, that's insane. So, okay, how did Jiu-Jitsu come in? Did you start training Jiu-Jitsu back in London as well, or how
Yeah.
was it?
So in my Muay Thai school,
Uh-huh.
they organized a Jiu Jitsu seminar.
Okay.
And by that point, I think I was 23, 24. I'd been boxing for 12, 13 years, Muay Thai for like 6 years. So they
Right.
called me for the Jiu Jitsu thing, and I had watched some UFC, but didn't really know Jiu Jitsu. So I went in for a seminar. I reached a little late. I saw people
Mm-hmm.
crawling on the ground, and I was like, okay, I'm going to sit this one out. This is not something that I want to do. And then when my coach was like, listen, they understand. They were like, okay, I know you don't want to do it, but there's this girl there. She doesn't have a partner. You don't have to pay for the seminar, but you can just help her out. Just
Hmm.
she needs a partner. So I just went in, just trying to help her.
Right.
And yeah, I rolled with her, and then didn't I do drilled with her technique, and then later on the coach said, okay, now you guys can roll. And she's tiny, like she was a small chick. She was like 40 kilos, 45 kilos max from Iran,
Right.
and she was a blue belt.
Oh, wow.
And yeah,
Okay.
the role started, and I was like, training for so long, so much bigger than her.
Hmm.
And yeah, bro, literally like in 15 seconds,
Hmm.
she choked me unconscious. I woke up looking at the ceiling, complete blackout. So I was like, what the
Hmm.
hell happened? I was like, I shocked. She said, yeah, you just came in, I got your neck, and guillotined you, high elbow guillotine. I was like,
Hmm.
damn. And then I told her, okay, let's go again. This time I'll go a little harder. And I
Hmm.
went 150%. Like, I'm not going to lie. I
Okay.
went in. I went in for the kill. The male
Uh-huh.
ego was hurt. So I went
Right.
in, and I woke up 10 seconds later, again looking at the ceiling, completely out. So I asked her, like, what happened? And then she was like, you came in, I arm dragged you, I took you back and choked you unconscious. You
Hmm.
didn't tap, I put you out. So that was my introduction. That was my first class in Jiu-Jitsu where this small girl from Iran choked me unconscious twice. And I
Hmm.
realized, man, she's 40, I'm 70. 30 kilos weight difference, and
Right.
she's putting me out so easily. Man, if
Hmm.
I learn this, I can put out 100-kilo people,
Right.
essentially. And I wasn't a
Right.
guy off the street. I'd been training, I'd been competing in boxing and Muay Thai, and she was
Hmm.
putting me out easy. So
Right.
that was kind of my motivation. And then, I also tried to see it from an Indian perspective. I was thinking that, a lot of women get attacked all the
Hmm.
time in India. So I just thought
Right.
that if Indian women can learn this, it's so strong. Like anyone
Hmm.
attacks them on the street, they can triangle them and armbar them, and just that's what I was thinking.
Right.
So that's how I started off with jiu-jitsu.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that story. I mean, that is something you don't experience unless you get onto the mat with somebody so,
Yeah,
so much lighter than you, but so much more capable. And that's an eye opener, to be honest. And yeah, I'm glad you got to experience that. And because of that, we are where we are, where you are leading one of the best combat, schools in India. Um, and yeah, for people who don't know this, uh, Anshul Jubli trains with you, right? And you led him to the UFC. I believe he has a contract now with the UFC for multiple fights.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah,
so
so he the story of Anshul is he came to us in 2018,
hmm.
and he came in at a great time because that time our gym was full of killers. Like that's the time when we were at the peak of our jiu-jitsu. Now it's more of an MMA place, but back then it's like hardcore jiu-jitsu academy. We had like 40 national champions on the mat at one point. So
Right.
he came in, and somebody came. Punyajit Likharu came to me actually. I remember he came to me.
Hmm.
He was one of our top fighters from India, and he came and he's like, "Coach, there's this one guy, and he seems to say that he's never trained before, but he's really good. I think he's sandbagging." And so people who don't know what sandbagging is, people who know jiu-jitsu or know a martial art, they come into a new club and they say, "मुझे तो कुछ आता नहीं है. I don't know anything." So that's
Right.
sandbagging.
Hmm.
So Punya was convinced that this Anshul Jubli guy was sandbagging. He had trained before.
Hmm.
So I saw him rolling. Really he was good. He had his, he didn't know the fundamentals, but he was moving the right way. So I
Right.
spoke to him after the class. He said, Coach, I've never trained before. I've had amateur fights. I've won 4 amateur fights, but mainly
Hmm.
because of looking at YouTube fights. I learned stuff from YouTube, and I've never really had formal training. And I believed him. And then, and yeah, seeing him progress through Jiu Jitsu, he had a great group to start with. A bunch of our blue belts helped him out. And yeah, he
Hmm.
grew, I mean, improved so much. National talent, but he was really hungry, really passionate. And yeah, look at him now. Like he's the face of Indian MMA.
Right.
He won the road to the UFC tournament at lightweight, killing
Hmm.
it. Yeah, he's got a full contract with the UFC. So I mean, awesome.
Right. That is great. And yeah, talking about your club, and you said you have multiple national champions. I remember the Sports Jiu-Jitsu India Federation. They had the Asian Open at the Talkatora Stadium out there, and I
Right.
was competing back then. I competed in the I believe the 84 kg and the open weight. I reached
Okay.
the finals of all four, gi and no gi. I lost
Nice.
three of them, all three against Cross Train Fight Club.
Oh
And the one
no.
final, one final where a Cross Train Fight Club player was not present, I won that one. So
Oh nice.
yeah, it was insane seeing the quality of guys you put on the mats. And I believe you guys won the best team in that tournament as well.
Yeah, we won the best gi team and the best overall team. We
Right.
came second in nogi,
Uh-huh.
primarily because they did gi first.
Uh-huh.
And then once you finished gi, weight and absolute, then the same guys had to go after lunch doing nogi.
Right.
So a
Yeah.
lot of the people just pulled out. We are too tired. Fought 6 times. We're not competing.
Right.
Um, because and then nogi guys, a lot of nogi guys just do nogi. They don't do gi. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
they should have done it on multiple days. I think we could have done
Hmm.
better in nogi. But
Right.
yeah, I'm not complaining. Yeah, we won the Asian Championship, and thank you for saying because of the grassroots level. I think our guys have been putting in the effort. Uh,
Hmm.
without much recognition because nobody cares. Like nobody cares if you win these
Yeah.
tournaments in Talkotara Stadium or whatever. But it's still a lot of for the people competing. It's a big deal. A lot of them are
Right.
competing for the first time,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's grassroots. It's what because the sport is just starting. I think all those wins and all those championships they mean a lot.
Right. And how does your family feel about this? Because I know Indian families are not big on the children getting into sports. And when you started, it would have been even more so. How was your family with this entire journey?
Yeah, you went deep there with that question. Um, Painful question. Yeah, because a lot of the fighters today, 18, 19-year old, they're getting into it. They can look at Anshul and they can say, okay, maybe there's a path for me now to the UFC. When
Right.
I came back, I had a few things not going for me. Number one, I had a full-time job in the UK,
Hmm.
so I had to leave that job. And I had a master's degree in economics, and my university had offered me, if you ever want to come back and do a PhD, we are here for you. So I had a bunch of options. MBA was another option. I had a bunch of options on the plate, and to
Hmm.
chuck all of that and to leave that life in the UK to come back to India to start a sport which nobody knew.
Right.
That was a really difficult decision, and my parents, they were not very pushy, but I could tell that they weren't very pleased with the decision because again, who wants their child to struggle? Who
Right.
wants them to leave a stable job and come back and struggle? So no, they didn't want that, but I was just really passionate about starting this because every time I would come back home uh, on holidays to Delhi, I would never find a good place to train. There
Hmm.
would always be these karate places that were claiming to teach MMA. And I remember there was
Hmm.
one story which kind of was the catalyst where me, my brother, my sister-in-law, they just recently been married. They were very excited about MMA because I was always telling them about it. And I was in Delhi, and I asked them, "Oh, let's go train." We were in East of Kailash. We said, "Let's go work out. Let's go find an MMA place." So I googled this place was like 5 kilometers from my brother's place. We went there, and it was a terrible experience. The coach didn't know what he was teaching. He was, not behaving like a coach. He was behaving more like a dictator. He
Hmm.
ended up getting into a fight with me in the middle of the class because I was trying to tell my brother how to kick. I'm
Hmm.
not even like on the side. Class is not going on. Class, like, he's told everyone to push-ups and sit-ups and whatever, and he's having chai. And
Right.
so my brother can't kick. He's also from a boxing background, never kicked before. So I
Hmm.
was just showing him on the side. I think if you step out and you turn the hips, you'll get a better kick. Now this coach decides to take it personally that I don't know what, and he gets into a fight with me.
Hmm.
Terrible experience. And my sister-in-law just walked out saying, like, what is this nonsense? Like, this is
Right.
terrible. And then she was kind of the person who said, listen, you should start this because these guys are just going to kill your sport, at least in Delhi. So that was
Right.
sort of kind of the motivation. I was like, okay, if no one's going to do it and the scene's so bad, I
Hmm.
might as well come and do it. So
Right.
yeah, that's how it kind of started.
Oh, that is awesome. And one of the things I have faced growing, when I started MMA and jiu-jitsu was something I got into because I kept getting taken down because India has really good wrestlers, but once on the ground they have no idea what to do, or they had no idea what to do. I think now the scene is different, and I realized even if I knew the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu, it helped a lot. And I would go in, and obviously we were training mainly no gi, and when I was wearing a gi, I was wearing a white belt, and people would come up to say, मेरा बेटा karate में black belt है.
Yeah.
And that mentality is there because every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there has a black belt in karate, and then they see jiu-jitsu guys struggling for years to go from white to blue, and blue to purple, etc. It's a very different sport, and I the good thing about India is we do not have McDojos giving out belts, at least for most part. So jiu-jitsu is it's very structured, and it's very difficult to get promoted. But did you face this kind of issues, comments from your students, from parents, from the students' parents, saying, my son has been training for so long, why is he still a white or a blue belt?
So many times. I still get it. People still come to join the club and they're like, how long before he gets his black belt in Jiu-Jitsu? And I said, I still haven't got it. So once I get it, I can tell you about it because I haven't got it yet.
Right.
But yeah, come back to your point, there are so okay. So just jiu-jitsu grading, I think you got to segregate two. I've always segregated two different genres. One is lifestyle. So a lot of people
Right.
do jiu-jitsu for their lifestyle, for fitness, for health. That's a separate criteria. And there is a competition belt as well, which is completely
Right.
different. I think you've got to segregate them into two different categories.
Hmm.
So McDojo scene, I think, comes in if that lifestyle element gets out of hand.
Right.
If there's an academy and they don't train or they don't roll hard, but they're giving belts based on attendance and stuff, then yeah, that's an issue. We've had a few instances in India, but they've been called out pretty quickly.
Right.
Because everybody who's actually worked hard and got a belt doesn't
Hmm.
want the sport to go the karate route.
Right.
But having said that, I think as the sport grows, it will become more and more common because again, a lot of the instructors, they want to keep their dojos open, and they have to kind of grade the students so that the students don't leave and go somewhere else. I've had instances where students have left. Like cross train is infamous for not giving belts.
Right.
We fuck. I mean, 5 years for a blue belt is generally an average at cross training. You train for 5 years. One of our students,
Hmm.
Jay, he just got his blue belt. 5 years of
Hmm.
training. Man, he
Hmm.
he could have just gone anywhere else 3 years ago and got a blue belt. But he stuck
Right.
on. And we've had a lot of students who stopped training with us, went somewhere else and got promoted.
Right.
So it's always going to be an issue as the sport grows. More higher belts are there. They're going to
Mm.
promote people more quickly. And I think the
Right.
reason why we don't have more black belts is I think quite a few. And I'm going to not say it just because I'm here.
Hmm.
A lot of people privately have messaged me and asked me when am I getting my black belt? Because
Hmm.
once I get it, I think then they can safely go out and get it themselves. But right now, I feel if they get it, they're gonna
Hmm.
get called out.
Right.
So me holding on to brown is definitely holding back a lot of people. I'm telling you, the day I get my black, you'll see
Hmm.
5, 6 other guys getting their blacks as well very soon.
Right. That is awesome. Yeah, and in a way, I love it that the Indian scene holds people accountable, and people just can't go out and declare, I'm the best and I have a black belt. Because if we do right, it's going to be horrible for the sport. And I'm out here in the US, and there is a Gracie Barra in every neighborhood, and I found the nearest Gracie Barra to try and train out there, and I gave them a bit of a background, and their email reply to me is, "We do not really compete. We may not be the right gym for you." So yeah, back in India, I don't think anybody, any gym which trains jiu-jitsu would say this to me. People who do train
There are
jiu-jitsu would
gyms,
say it.
bro. No.
There would be.
There are
Okay.
gyms that, yeah,
Okay.
there are a few gyms that don't want you to compete.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
they look down upon competitors. They look down upon. I mean, it's their thing. It's not right or wrong, but yeah, just
Right.
to come to point, there are gyms in India which don't want you to compete for
Uh-huh.
whatever reason, but they look down on. They think it's showing off and it's blah blah blah. I mean, so I don't agree to it, but it is what it
Mhm.
is.
Right. So, we touched upon your sports. You competing in jiu-jitsu. Did you ever compete in boxing, kickboxing, or MMA in the past?
Yeah, so in my school, when I got into boxing, the reason why I got into it because boxing was a sport, and we had 5 houses, and each house had to, take part, had to send a fighter in each weight class. So I've been competing in
Hmm.
boxing since 12, man.
Wow.
So every year from 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all those six
Right.
years I boxed. I
Hmm.
lost every year, semi-finals or finals. I lost 12 at 12, 13, 14. It's finally in class 12 when I was 18.
Hmm.
After losing for 5 years, I was finally like, man, I need to stop losing. Yeah, this is too much. You
Hmm.
lose in front of all your friends, all your juniors, seniors, teachers. I got sick of it, and I trained so hard. For a
Hmm.
3 month season, I trained for 12 months, man. I didn't.
Wow.
From my class 11 when I lost to the next bout a year later, I trained every single day,
Hmm.
and that's how I won. And I think because I trained so hard and lost so much, even after I won in class 12, I still had that momentum. I was like, I'm not stopping. I'm
Right.
continuing to train. I never stopped. So I never stopped training. I think every day I've trained forever. So I've been competing since 12. I competed in Muay Thai in the UK as well. But
Okay.
Jiu Jitsu started competing when I came back to India.
Right. Perfect. And one of the things people ask me, and sometimes it's difficult to answer them. They're like, तुम लड़ते हो, तुम्हें कितना पैसा मिलता है? And when I'm
Hmm.
a professional, I do get paid. But back when I was, fighting amateur MMA or even jiu-jitsu, that's not how it works. You don't typically get paid. In fact, you pay an entry fee and you go and fight. So I'm like, नहीं यार,
Yeah.
मैं पैसे देके लड़ने जाता हूँ. And people would look at me as if I am insane. And have you faced that issue as well?
Yeah, completely. There's so many tournaments where even right now when I won the national championship,
Hmm.
I think 10th time. I mean
Right.
I'm winning it for the 10th time. I'm qualifying for the Asian Games, but I'm not getting paid anything for it. Thankfully, they
Right.
didn't charge anything for it also, but I didn't get
Hmm.
paid anything for it. So a lot of people will ask, oh, how much did you get paid? Yeah, I get paid nothing for winning domestically. But for example, I compete at the AGP circuit, which is the Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu Pro, and they
Hmm.
have a yearly calendar. And if you rank really well in AGP, you get paid.
Right.
Uh, I recently was approached by Copa de Malaysia. They invited me to take part in the brown belt invitational. There was cash prize there, but
Hmm.
there is a process. Like you can't when you're just learning the sport. And I think if you're a white belt, blue belt, you're just starting off in the sport. You can't
Hmm.
expect to get paid. And we've had a lot of discussions sitting around at cross train and with like other gyms as well.
Hmm.
You can't claim, oh, pay me, I'm fighting. No, bro. You're just starting off. You're still just learning the basics.
Hmm.
If you're playing cricket, you're going to the nets. You're not getting paid, to go and play in the nets or practice matches. So that's what it is. Unless you go pro and if you win the ADCC, you
Hmm.
get paid. You even in India, when we run ADCC India, we
Hmm.
give the best grappler of the tournament cash prizes. We always do that because they deserve to get paid. We're not gonna give someone who's one white belt category where there are two people. We're not gonna pay them because man,
Right.
they're not the
That
best,
does make sense.
and they're there for the experience. So you fight initially, you pay, but obviously as the sport grows, if we can get good sponsors on board, I think all the good organizers will be happy to pay fighters more and more. But
Hmm.
you can't expect to get paid when honestly, if you're not good, enough, you've not won anything, but you're saying I'm not taking part in this tournament because I won't get paid, bro. You need to win first. Talk
Right.
about getting paid after you start winning. You win a bunch of things, doors will open. You don't want to compete on the excuse that, oh, I won't get paid, so I'm not competing, man. That doesn't make any sense. Compete, put your name out there.
Hmm.
Even if like if I'm winning these national championships, okay, maybe I'm not getting paid by the organizer, but so
Right.
many brands approach me wanting to sponsor me, or doors open up. So
Hmm.
I'm not so fussed about paying and competing because I know with each win it opens new doors and new opportunities.
Right. Perfect. Just coming back to jiu-jitsu and the Asian games that gonna happen, and it is incredible that during our I did not imagine in our lifetime we'll see the sport in the Asian Games or even the Olympics. Olympics is still a long way away, but the fact that it's now in the Asian Games, that's a massive achievement for the community. But the last time I remember, the first time it got included in 2018, I believe, there was an Indian contingent which was supposed to go, and for some reason, I think believe the visa issues is what was publicly declared. But I really don't know what the issues were. But the contingent never went out there. How is it different this time? In terms of organizing the team and getting things in place to make sure the team actually goes out there.
Yeah, I didn't know about the 2018 thing at all. I didn't even know there was an Indian team that was supposed to go. I had no idea. Nobody told me.
Okay. Hmm.
I was just told that this is the first time an Indian team is being sent. They're doing the
Right.
trials. Would you want to take part? And the way it went out is they invited all the champions from previous years to come and
Hmm.
take part and do these trials. So it was a invite only, and I
Hmm.
got invited because I won their championship 3 times, not in the recent
Right.
years. The last
Hmm.
time I won at their federation was 2018, I think.
Okay.
So they reached out, and because I've been winning at AGP, they were like,
Hmm.
okay, come and try out, see, if you're as good as the other champions. And yeah, I
Right.
won. I won all 3 of my fights. We won all 3
Hmm.
by submissions.
Nice.
So yeah, they were like, don't, you're in, you're fighting. So I
Right.
didn't know about 2018. I was
Hmm.
told about this one only recently,
Right.
and it's a phenomenal thing. Like it's sanctioned, not sanctioned, but the Indian Association of Jiu Jitsu is recognized now by the Indian Olympic Committee. So
Committee. Right.
it's the first step. I think if it goes well this time at the Asian Games, who knows? Maybe doors open for the Olympics. But it's a great start. Like I like you said, like I didn't believe that Jiu-Jitsu will be in the Asian Games, at least in my lifetime. And the fact that I'm going to compete, it's an absolute honor, and still can't believe it.
Right. Exactly. And when I was growing up, I'm sure even when you were growing up, the pinnacle of sports apart from cricket, when you look at the Olympics, there were any sport which basically get to the Olympics, the Asian Games, the Commonwealth Games, and the medal winners typically would get the Arjuna Award or the Dronacharya Award. Now, when I started competing MMA Jiu-Jitsu, obviously none of those things were even accessible to us. We didn't even think about it. But now you're
Yeah.
going to the Asian Games. Suddenly, technically, you are eligible for both the Arjuna Award and the Dronacharya Award as a coach, theoretically. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but the fact that jiu-jitsu athletes are now technically eligible, and if somebody wins one of those prizes, I think it might be a game changer for the game, for the sport out there, in my opinion. I may be jumping the gun, but just me getting excited with the fact that you guys are going out there, and we are now on the same level as what these Olympic sports are. Uh, what are your thoughts on that, or did you even think about on these lines? Yeah.
No, man, I didn't even think about it, and I was already under pressure, and now after you said all this, I'm under even more pressure.
Oh, I'm really sorry.
No,
For
no,
sure.
not at all. But no, it's just a great opportunity, and I was speaking to someone earlier today, and the
Mhm.
the discussion was around how young the sport is in India and how
Right.
little support we've got from the administrators. Generally, if you're competing, for example, our weight classes that the Asians are going to have close to 100 fighters. So,
Mhm.
2, 3 people from each country.
Right.
And most of them, I mean, almost all of them are training either in Brazil or the US or Europe with international coaches, training with multiple black belts. And here we are in India with essentially blue belts, training with blue belts.
Mhm.
I'm always training with like white belts, blue belts, and
Right.
a couple of purple belts. It's almost unfair, you know, uh, the lack of exposure that our team has got because
Right.
it's still such a new sport in India. So it's going to
Mhm.
change. Obviously, I think the reason why people call certain people pioneers or all of that is because they went through these obstacles. And right now in India, it is very difficult to compete internationally because we don't have high level international coaches, 4 degree black belts from Brazil or
Right.
US coming and training us. We are just watching fights, studying them, breaking it down, learning things, teaching to the students, for then playing up. So it's a lot of work which needs to be done to get to the next level. Which, if you had a really high level black belt,
Mhm.
he could just shorten the process and tell you, okay, this is the card you need to play. These are the sweeps you want to look at. These are the
Right.
submissions you know. It just fast tracks the entire process.
Right.
But that's the difficulty. Like, if we're going for Asians, we're going to obviously try our best. From CrossTrain, we've got me at 69 kilos. We've got Tarun Yadav, who's fighting at 62 kilos, and we have Anvisha Deb, the first female to make it to the Asian Games. She's fighting at minus 48 kilos. So,
Mm-hmm.
so we've been brainstorming. We sit down every day and we go through fights. We study fights. We look at techniques. We look at what works in our game, what doesn't work in our game. So there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of work that goes in, and I mean, we're going to try our best to do uh, hopefully win a medal. But
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult, and it's a very difficult tournament. It's a very difficult competition. But we'll try our best. I mean, who knows what happens on the day? But we're going to prepare with everything we've got.
No, I'll be following your journey throughout, and I think the biggest thing for me today is I would be inspired by athletes, and there were sports I never even heard of. But if they're in the Olympics or the Asian Games or Commonwealth Games and Indians are taking part, I would typically try and get a feed because the feed keeps switching sport to sport, right? And when I would see some sport I didn't know about, I would read up a little bit more about it and get excited. And I'm sure a lot of people in India do that. The fact that you guys are competing, no pressure on you, win, lose, whatever. But when you compete on the day, and if you guys come on mainstream TV, even if one kid gets inspired by you guys and takes up jiu-jitsu, I think that's a big win for us. And I think we are on the right path, and that's a massive achievement, and I really commend you for getting us there, to be honest.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And then that's always been the goal. The whole goal for me coming back was to grow the sport in India.
Right.
It wasn't about the money or the fame or which, to be honest, isn't there in the sport even now.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's always been about growing the sport in India, growing it at the grassroots level. And if Anshul wins, that's a huge boost to the Indian community, not just to CrossFit Fight Club or to me, for the entire community. Everyone, then there's hope. There's a way that if Anshul can make it to the UFC, anyone can. And same thing
Hmm.
with like Tarun, Anvesha, or myself. If we
Hmm.
can win a medal, put on a good show, that's again a lot of kids will have to fight a lot less with their parents to convince them to do the sport, because right now it's a very, very difficult challenge to convince your
Hmm.
parents to let you do the sport.
Exactly. Right. That's exactly right. And coming to the fact that you're competing in this is Nevada, right? And
Yeah.
every tournament or every promoter who puts an event out there, typically they do these minor tweaks in the rules. And every time you as a competitor have to go out there, you have to make sure it's in your mind, because if you're used to competing in one way, or used to point being awarded in one way, getting used to the new system is difficult, right? Was it very difficult in this part where when you were training for the Asian Games? Is it very different from the
Yeah.
other tournaments you've been? Okay.
Very, very different. Very different. We generally compete, like I said, me, Tarun, and Visha, we compete a lot in the AGP circuit, which is very
Mm,
close to the Asian Championship rule set, but it has some differences, which I still haven't figured out yet. Because in my fight, so they did the Asian Championship earlier this year, and I had to fight this guy from Philippines.
mhm,
And at the time the fight ended, the score was 1-1. We both
mm.
had the same number of points, and then it went to golden point, which is whoever gets the first point. And in
Right.
AGP, in overtime, you can pull guard, and if you can sweep the guy, you win, or if he passes your guard, he wins. So overtime, we
Mhm,
went in, I pulled guard, and I lost, and I didn't understand why.
right.
And then same thing happened with Tarun's fight. Scores
Mhm,
equal. He goes into overtime. He pulls guard, and his opponent is awarded 2 points, and the opponent wins. So we are very confused. We're still trying to figure out the
mhm,
rule set, because the booklet that we got, we thought you can pull guard.
right.
And in AGP, we lost fights because we did not pull guard. So there's a little confusion happening, but I'm sure as we get closer to the tournament, we'll get more clarity. We have
Mhm,
asked the association to, put us in touch with one of the referees who can really talk us through all the small, minor points.
mhm,
Because, yeah, you're right. There is small, subtle changes, and at that level, every small detail can cost you. And it cost me, it cost Tarun in our last tournament, and we want to
mhm.
make sure we don't do it again.
Right. And the last Asian Games which happened, UAE dominated the jiu-jitsu scene. It wasn't by a big margin, but they were the best country out there. Do you think that's part of the reason? I mean, is it partly because of the ADCC circuit happening out there, and exposure to so many coaches and athletes, or what's your take on?
Um, the scene in UAE is, I mean, phenomenal, because they have. Jiu-Jitsu mandatory in every school. All
Wow.
the
Okay.
kids have access to Jiu-Jitsu training from
Mhm.
when they join school at the early age. They have Jiu-Jitsu. They've gone out and they've got some of the best coaches from around the world, black belts, to come
Mhm.
and be instructors in schools where they're taught Jiu-Jitsu at a very young age. So this
Mhm.
started happening in like 2010 onwards, where they
Right.
hired it, and then those kids who started off as very young 5 year or 6 year olds are now 17, 18 killers because they've been training jiu-jitsu, since forever. And it's starting to show results now. You're starting to see that apart from Brazil and US, I feel
Mhm.
uh, because when we go for the World Championships in Abu Dhabi every year,
Right.
apart from Brazil, nobody is really able to compete with UAE. It's always Brazil comes first, and then UAE comes second. And we're talking about the world stage. And
Wow.
in
Okay.
Asia, I mean, UAE stands alone. I mean, they've got such good talent,
Mhm.
such good infrastructure. They have tournaments that happen every week in
Wow.
UAE. So that's the reason why the sport has grown so far. They have administrators who really want to succeed, and I think they're the reason why the sport is also in the Asian Games because they've really been pushing it. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I think again this time UAE will do really well
Mhm.
because of the infrastructure, and that's why I'm really hoping like if one of our guys can do well, maybe our
Mhm.
government can come forth and give us the support that they give other sports, like
Right.
the support that you get in football or hockey or boxing or wrestling. If you get that kind of support, I promise you, like next 4 to 8 years, India is going to be on the map as well of international jiu-jitsu.
Fingers crossed we get that, man. Fingers crossed we get that. And hopefully there's no politics from the other sports saying that why you're taking our athlete, because typically in combat sports this does happen, and a lot of traditional combat sports don't want the athletes to train jiu-jitsu or even MMA and Muay Thai, because they believe that they are the best athletes they have out there may shift over to these disciplines. Hopefully that doesn't happen, and we can just be as a sport on our own as jiu-jitsu and be able to go ahead. um, right. Coming back to the formats, it's fairly simple in the Asian games, right? There are no belt levels, they're just weight levels, and there's a simple rule set. But when you go out competing, there is all sorts of categories. There's it's by belt, it's by weight, it's by age as well. They've got masters categories now. Then you got the combat jiu-jitsu, which is coming up massively, especially in the US. And there, belts don't matter. Typically, you just turn up, and it can, if the athletes are talented, it can be quite a big show. Because there are people who are just used to pulling guard and working from there. But when strikes are involved, it suddenly changes the game. What's your take on this? And do you have a favorite format among all of these?
But I can talk about gi and nogi because again you got to segregate gi and nogi because
Yeah.
it's almost like now it's become like two different sports.
Right.
My favorite format for nogi is the ADCC rule set. I think
Hmm.
ADCC rule set till today is the most exciting rule set. For people who don't know what the rule set is in ADCC, if it's a 10 minute fight, the first 5 minutes is no points, and the second 5 minutes there's points. So it's a mix of both. First 5 minutes you can do whatever the hell you feel like. You can
Right.
pull guard, you can take him down, you can wrestle him, try crazy submissions. And the second half, because they want a result,
Hmm.
second half is points. So you've got a
Right.
mixed strategy in there as well. So that's what makes ADCC such a exciting rule set. Uh,
Hmm.
and again with India, when we organize ADCC in India, man, the fights are phenomenal. I can't take my eyes off it. They're so
Hmm.
exciting, and you see the talent coming through. It's amazing. So yeah, in Nogi, I would say that ADCC rule set is my favorite and the most exciting.
Hmm.
And with Gi, Gi rule set is generally pretty linear. Like IBJJF is quite similar to AJP, which is quite similar to Sport Jiu-Jitsu Federation. So they all
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu ones are pretty much similar in the rule
Hmm.
set. But yeah, in Nogi it goes a bit crazy because you have an EBI rule set, you have combat Jiu-Jitsu. Man, I'm not a big
Right.
fan of the EBI rule set because a lot of people stall out an actual fight and
Yeah.
they just focus on overtime.
Right.
So like if you are in a grappling and if I just trained overtime, I'm gonna stall
Hmm.
you out, keep running away for 10 minutes because I know I have a
Right.
great back system or a great armbar. But maybe in a
Right.
real life, I won't be able to take your back. in a real role.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't like the EBI rule set so much.
Hmm.
I love the ADCC rule set. I think that's the best.
Hmm.
Combat Jiu-Jitsu, again, not a fan. I'm like, if you want to do MMA, do MMA. Like, if you want to do Jiu-Jitsu, what's this in the middle? Like, this it doesn't make sense. If you
Okay.
want to slap someone in the face, fight MMA, punch him in the face. So I'm not, again, gi,
Right.
do gi. If you're doing no gi, ADCC is the best one. Do MMA. Like this, I don't want to like,
Right.
this is confusing for me. I've
Got it.
not watched a single combat jiu-jitsu fight. I just can't watch it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, it gets intense. I managed to compete in one, and for some reason they put me in the 205 category, which was like a
Yeah,
lot heavier. Uh,
big boys.
not a comfortable experience. To say the least. Some of it gets exciting, but you're right. If it goes to overtime, and they put you in those positions, advantage, disadvantage. It's a little silly because in one way they said that it's supposed to simulate a real street fight, which is why they said the slaps come in. But then have that overtime rule, which doesn't make sense. But people enjoy watching it because out here, especially, right? People, jiu-jitsu gets boring for people. They say nothing is
Yeah,
happening. Although
yeah.
even when you're not moving, you are doing stuff, and a person competing knows that. But I think it's from a spectator point of view that combat jiu-jitsu is so much,
For
more
sure, for
exciting.
sure. I think jiu-jitsu is only watched by competitors and their families, and that's pretty much it.
Exactly.
Nobody else watches jiu-jitsu. Especially jiu-jitsu is because it's so technical, man. It's so technical. There's so
Right.
many guards, and I remember a couple of our MMA guys were just sitting and watching us roll, and we
Hmm.
were stuck in this one position, 50-50, and we're trying to feed lapels and making it. And they were just like, "Coach, what the hell are you guys doing? You've been stuck in this position for 6 minutes." And they thought, and they literally said, "Why don't you just stand up?" And I said, "Okay, come here. Come here. I'll put you there. I'll feed the lapel. And now you try and stand up." And then you're like, "Oh shit, we're stuck, completely stuck." You
Right.
have all these lapel guards. So yeah, it's not visually very exciting.
Hmm.
But from an athlete point of view, when you actually start doing it, you realize how technical and beautiful it is. So yeah, spectator point of view for sure. Yeah, EBI rule set, exciting. Slapping in the face, super exciting, and which is why I think that the slapping fighting championship or whatever it's called,
Yeah, the power
that
slap.
Dana
Yeah.
White started.
Yeah.
It's exciting, but is it? I don't know, man. I can't watch it. It's too brutal for me.
No. And that's just asking for concussions, right? I mean, in combat jiu-jitsu, you're still defending yourself. There, you're just
Yeah,
waiting for somebody to slap you, and you will end up with a concussion no matter what happens.
for sure. Brain
But to
damage. I
each his
think.
own. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Who wants? A lot of us are now. I'm not 21 anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to get any brain damage. I want to keep
Right.
my brain safe. So I
Right.
don't want to get slapped in the face while I'm trying to do jiu-jitsu.
Right. Makes sense. Makes sense. And is one of the eye openers for me, when I started training, and when I started training jiu-jitsu, I had nobody to reach out to in Bangalore. Thankfully, I found Rama Reddy, and he was opening a new place close to my house, and I started training with him. And my intention was to train jiu-jitsu for MMA, which is why it was all no-gi. When Sport Jiu-Jitsu India Federation came in, they had the gi competition, right? So I got myself a gi. I started competing, and an eye opener for me was after two matches, my fingers didn't work
Yeah.
because I wasn't used to pulling the lapels and making use of the other person's with the belt, the lapel, whatever. Uh, has anybody come and told you these things, which may seem very small, but you realize in later that because you've been training, you used to it, but a common person or a person new to the sport is not used to it at all.
Yeah, nobody told me because nobody knew in India because nobody had done it before. Like when we started off, I remember I met Rama Reddy in 2014. He
Uh-huh.
reached out and he said, "I'm a purple belt." He was a purple belt at the time, and I
Right.
want to teach a seminar. I'm like, "Yeah, come down, bro." We didn't even do gi at the time,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, when we started doing gi, one of my first tournaments, and again, we didn't have many training partners. We didn't have much in the gi. We were basically doing no gi, wearing a gi. That's what we were doing. And we
Right.
started off, and we
Yeah.
came back from the tournament. Came back from one of my fights
Mhm.
where I really could not feel my forearms. Like forearms
Yeah.
were wrecked, and I
Right.
trained really hard for that camp. I trained very hard, and I couldn't feel my forearms. This is in the UK, and
Right.
my fingers were just like I felt like I got arthritis in my fingers or something. Like 80-year-old
Yeah.
fingers, I couldn't believe it. So then I started speaking to the black belts there. And I said, listen, what is this normal? Like, what's happening? And they were like, yeah, if you train in the gi, and no, it's not even like it gets better. It never gets better because
Hmm.
at once you get used to the grips at blue belt, in competition, purple belt is a different level. You're gonna get gassed
Right.
again. Your forearms are gonna die, fingers are gonna die.
Right.
You get used to it at purple belt. You enter brown belt, and fuck, those killers are like, you'll get exhausted and dead. But what
Hmm.
helped me out a little bit was, I managed to tie up with this one brand called Gorilla Rolls.
Hmm.
They are my sponsors as well. So they gave me these finger tapes, which are my lifesavers. Like, you will not see me roll without finger tapes because if you're training gi 5 days, 6 days a week, twice a
Hmm.
day, your fingers are going to take a beating, and you need something to take care of them. Like, like I said, I'm not 21, so my
Right.
body does not heal it and recover as quickly as it used to. So I need all
Right.
the help I can, and
Hmm.
I tape these fingers tight with Gorilla Rolls every day, and that's the
Hmm.
reason why I can still write and type and all of that.
Nice. So, if somebody's starting jiu-jitsu, what are the must-have kits for them in their gym bag or duffel bag, as per you?
If you're starting off jiu-jitsu, I am a strong proponent of doing the gi. So you should get a gi for yourself to start off with.
Hmm.
If you're doing no gi, rash guard is an absolute must. You need to stop training in t-shirts here, because
Yeah.
t-shirts, firstly, in the middle of the roll, the t-shirt comes up, and now someone's head is stuck in your hairy stomach. It's not fun for anyone.
Right.
So please wear a rash guard, everyone. Please wear a gi. Just basics. Not a kit, but it's a bit of a thing that please use a deodorant before class. Please cut your nails. Just like basic hygiene. Very
Hmm.
important, because in India people don't know. They'll just wear a t-shirt and come for class. They won't shower. They'll wear dirty clothes.
Right.
You're not the one suffering with your
Hmm.
body odor. It's your partner who's suffering. So please think about your partner. Don't scratch. If you're long legs, when you try to grab his hand, you're actually scratching him, and then he has to go home and answer to his parents or his girlfriend why he's got scratch marks all over his neck.
Right.
It can be dangerous for them. And then, and yeah, if you're scared of getting hurt, a gum shield is a good one to go for. Generally,
Hmm.
they don't recommend wearing a groin guard when you're doing jiu-jitsu,
Right.
because you can break someone's arm very easily with an armbar. So
Right.
gum shield avoid. If you're doing wrestling, you can probably wear it, but for BJJ you should not. But that's pretty much it, man. These are just basics. Finger rolls are very good if if you're doing gi. You don't want to get it broken, so you can have that. If you're going for
Hmm.
a tournament and you've got, this is a tip I give to all our students. If you're going for a tournament and you have an injured wrist,
Hmm.
please don't tape it up, because as soon as you tape it up, your opponent knows what to go for.
Right.
If you're going to tape it up, tape both, so he doesn't know which one to go after.
Right.
So yeah, just small things you should keep in mind. Just basic things. Like, it's nothing complicated. Get a
Hmm.
good gi. I mean, that's what I would say. Get a good gi. It's gonna last you a really long time. A good rash guard, shorts without pockets. Just basic things you should have.
Right. So, talking about gi, right? When I got my first gi, Ivan Tomasetti, he had his, a brand, and he was based out of Delhi at that time, and I had no idea. And I got his gi, which I did not realize was not a competition gi; it was a training gi. So the first tournament I went to, they didn't notice. They let me compete. The next tournament, they're like,
Oh,
you
that was
cannot
the rip
compete in
rip
this.
rip stop material.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So for the people out there, could you just, give them a very, easy way to figure out what gi to buy and how to buy it?
Don't buy a karate gi to start with. You go to Amazon, you look at the cheapest 1500 rupee gi. If that's what it costs, it's probably the wrong one. You need to get a jiu-jitsu gi, which is generally made of cotton, with maybe some polyester in it. But generally, if it's got any sort of ripstop material, it's got a lot of polyester in it. Uh, Generally there are some brands in India that are making it, but in my experience, generally I use Fight Aesthetic, which is a brand. It's an Asian brand, and recently they signed Nicholas Meregali, one of the best grapplers in the world. If I'm ever wearing a gi, I always wear Fight Aesthetic gis, because they are best for India. You don't want a ghee which is too thick. European ghees, or they're so thick it becomes so hot you want to die.
Right.
So Fight Aesthetic is good because they make ghees which are just perfect for our weather. They're not too thick. You can breathe in it, you can survive in it, and they're very good quality. They last you like 8 9 years easy. I've the first gi they gave sent to me was 2014. I still have it. I still use it. So yeah, if I had to recommend one brand, just go get them. If you got anyone coming from Malaysia, Singapore, or if you want to just get in touch with me or anyone from CrossTrain, they'll help you get fight aesthetic gi. Just get because again you don't want to spend 5,000 on a gi in local manufacturer and in 1 year it tears off. Now you
Right.
got to find another new gi. This happens so many times where someone buys a local gi and the gi pant goes first always.
Yeah.
And now you got to now you got sambo uniform happening. You've just got the top. You don't have a bottom.
Right.
Starts to look very funny. So
Right.
so yeah, get a good brand. Fight aesthetic is good. In India, you've
Mhm.
got 411 Fight where they're doing a good job as well with gis. So you can
Right.
probably reach out to them if you want an Indian gi. But Fight Aesthetic is hands down the best I've ever used.
Nice. Nice. And just last thing, I want to ask: do you have a lot of female athletes training at your club, jiu-jitsu at least?
Um, we've got around 10 to 12 athletes currently training at Cross Train.
Mhm.
I wish the number was higher, but Cross Train at the moment is a place where it's more MMA oriented.
Right.
So a lot of people have moved from their respective cities to Delhi to train at Cross Train.
Right.
So people from like Northeast, people from like South India, from Bombay, Bangalore, they've all moved to Delhi to train with us, uh,
Mhm.
and that's led to a weird. Like our academy was never like this. It's just fighters, 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 fighters. So it has
Right.
scared off some of the casual
Mhm.
Delhi people and girls included. They're like they come in and they see like so much testosterone and they see like so many fighters, it scares them a little bit. But now I
Right.
think even the girls who've stuck on,
Mhm.
like Anvisha is competing in the Asian Championship. We have Anandita who's been training with us for a while. So these girls
Right.
have been around and now they can tap out, some real tough guys. That's the girls who stick on in this environment become real
Mhm.
badasses. So the girls
Right.
who stuck on have become really good. So we've got 10, 12, but each of them is a handful to roll with. Like they're killers.
Right. And one of the mentalities, I face, challenges I faced when I was talking to women who want to enter the sport. Jiu-jitsu, number one, is a very obviously all combat sports are physical, but in this case, you get into very awkward positions, and at the end of the roll, you are drenched in sweat, and it's not just your sweat; it's everybody else you roll with it as well, right? And that puts a lot of casual, women who want to train casually. It puts them off. How do you deal with that typically?
I think it's very important to look after your new members. So if any new girl is coming in for training, I can very safely put them in a role with our purple belts.
Right.
I'll roll with them, or a high level blue belts will roll with them because they know how to roll with someone safely,
Hmm.
and they also know how to put the other person at ease. I
Right.
would not send them on a roll with an MMA crazy guy who's been training for 3 months. So
Right.
that's the quickest way of losing, training partners and women from training. So every time I've had to roll with a new girl or a new member in general, it's always been very comfortable. Because we know how to roll and what positions to set them in.
Right.
And you put them in ease. You let them know exactly what the goals are, what the objectives are. Positional rolling really helps when you're confined to a specific position. For example, you can start a roll from the back position where they're trying to strangle you. They know how to strangle because you've taught them in the class, and they
Right.
just work one position. So it's not awkward or odd at all. It's just when they
Hmm.
don't know what the hell is going on, and then they
Right.
find themselves on the back with a sweaty man on top. That's when
Mm.
they don't know what's happening. So
Right.
it's very important to initially make them understand the fundamentals. So at CrossTrain, we've got these fundamental classes which happen, and
Hmm.
a lot of the girls have to spend like 2 to 3 months initially just doing fundamentals where they can't roll, not allowed
Hmm.
to. At
Right.
most, after a month, we'll let them do positional training, but no full sparring. They don't get to train with like fighters or anyone. So once
Right.
they start understanding positions, they start seeing openings, they understand leverage, they understand where they should be, then we can let them do open sparring. You let
Right.
girls into open sparring from day one against crazy people, obviously they're not going to stick on.
Absolutely right. Perfect. I didn't realize we already 53 minutes in. I don't want to take much of your Friday evening, but before we conclude, anything you want to share with the audience out there? Anything about the sport? About anything you want to just give out as pearls of wisdom?
Uh, Pearls of wisdom. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's been. I can see that the last 11 years that have gone into growing the sport in India. It's been a challenging ride. Uh, and somebody asked me last week in training, like, would I do it again? And oftentimes I would say no because it's been so difficult. I don't want to do it all over again. We've gone
Mhm.
from the dark days where it was very difficult, like putting in all your life savings into a business which people didn't believe in. You lost a lot of money. I made a lot of losses. Blah blah blah. So it was a very difficult journey. But then there are days where you get recognized and some young kid comes in and he says, that I'm now doing MMA because of you guys and what you've managed to create. And those days you feel like the sacrifice has been worth it. So yeah, for anyone, like, if you're really passionate about something, man, try it, and who knows, man, maybe it'll take you to great things. And I never thought in my life that I'll be representing India at the Asian Games. I never thought. I mean, especially because I was a boxer and I knew how if you're once you're 18, 19, 20, it becomes almost impossible to represent India in boxing.
Right.
So to be in my 30s and representing India at the Asian Games, it just
Mhm.
feels like a blessing. So I'm very excited, and anyone who wants to try it, I would strongly recommend trying combat sports. I think it's amongst all the sports I've played, and I've played a lot, combat
Mhm.
sports are the most fun, and I think they change you as a person. They change your DNA. You start to
Right.
see things differently. You start to understand what it means to be a man. If you are a man, I think
Mhm.
we've evolved from uh, killing tigers and surviving. That's what men were, back in the day. And now a lot of the men are lost because they don't know their purpose, because there are no more tigers to hunt down. There's no more defending. Okay, so
Right.
they lose purpose. So that's why I think combat sports comes in, and it's so helpful for mental health and for general overall health of men, because now they have a purpose. Now they get to fight again. Now they get to be
Right.
warriors again. And so yeah, I would strongly recommend anyone from anywhere in the world, if you want to try something new, you want to try a new sport, and you might feel like, oh, I'm too old, because that's what you get in India. No, you're too old now. You're too
Right.
old to play a sport. You too old to do blah blah blah. You're never too old, man. I mean, with
Right.
combat sports, with Jiu Jitsu, you can do this at any age.
Mhm.
You must have seen it in the US. When you these IBJF
Yeah.
tournaments, you've got like Masters 8 happening. People who are
Exactly.
60-year-olds
Right.
strangling each other. So there's no age for this. You can do this at any age.
Right. Perfect. Great. I mean, I could not have said it better myself. Thank you for that. And best of luck for your campaign at the Asian Games. I will be rooting for you personally, and I'll try to catch a feed whenever I can out here. And I hope you guys come back with a medal or two. But even if you don't, you guys have already made us proud by representing India out there. So best of luck. And Kevin Alfred David is on the stream. He's saying all the best as well. He's called you the best person to talk about this sport. So
Sorry, who's that?
Kevin Alfred David. He's one of the best
Oh
referees
wow.
India has.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
So
I'm a
he's on
big
the
fan of
stream.
his work.
So yeah, so shout out to Kevin as well. Thanks for joining in. And yeah, that's it for today. And thank you, Siddharth, for giving us the time. And thanks everybody for joining in. We'll catch you on the next episode of Beyond the Gloves next week. Thank you.
Thank you.